All right, more of the same. And so now we gotta draw the R isomer of these compounds. Well, not of these compounds. I mean of this first compound here, right? So there's our chiral center. We've got to draw the R version of this. Um, Remember, you've got to explicitly show R versus S, right? You've got to put the wedge and the dashes stuff in the correct place. And so what we need to do is we need to go through and assign our priority, because that's really how we always start everything in this chapter. Right, so we've got a fluorine, a chlorine, we've got the carbon in blue, got the carbon in orange on there. And so let's go through and assign priority. Attached to that black carbon, chlorine is going to be number 1, right? Fluorine is going to be number 2, right? Remember, we're going by atomic number, right? Then we got carbon in blue versus carbon in orange. Make your list, right? If you make your list, carbon in blue is going to be 3 because it's bound to it's bound to 3 carbons. Double bound to a carbon, which counts as 2, and then bound to another carbon, so 3 carbons. And then carbon in orange down there is 4. Okay, so we need to draw R. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky. And here's what I do. I take my carbon in black, and I make a tetrahedral carbon out of it, right? I put 2 in the plane, 1 into the plane, and 1 out of the plane, right? That's how a generic tetrahedral carbon is going to look. I try and match it as closely as I can to what's shown in the drawing there. And then I just fill things in, right? The 4 is going to be here. The 3 is going to be here. And then I have my 1 and my 2. I say, well, the 3 and the 4, I'm going to leave those in the plane. Then all I got to do is switch. I'm going to try to put my 1 there. And I'm going to try and put my, whoops, I had that in blue, green, 2 there. The other option would be, right, we draw the same thing. Three, 4, 2, 1. Get it? Right? All I'm doing is looking at my 2 options, drawing them both and saying which one is going to get me the R. Okay, so let's go through and assign it. Let's do the one on the bottom here. Right, let's look at this one here at the bottom. Okay, so the 4 is in the plane of the paper, so we've got to do a little bit of a rotation. I think, let's see, what color can I use? Black, that looks okay. So I'm going to rotate my 4 here to my 1. 1 goes to 3. 3 goes back here. So I'm going to do that rotation. Let me draw that over here so I don't get confused between the different numbers. Relatively, everything stays the same in terms of the wedge and the dash. My 2 is out here. All right. My 4 gets rotated into the back. Sorry if you guys just heard that alert. My computer's been acting up this morning. 1 rotates here, and my 3 rotates here. Okay, so now the 4 is facing away from us. We can look at the rotation of the priorities. 1 to 2 to 3, back to 1. Which is great. This is what we wanted. So, right, we wanted R. So that means we have to take this orientation and draw the molecule like such. Got it? Okay. Let's find some space here. Ring. Double bond. So we needed to put our 1 as dashed. 1 was chlorine. Cool. And our 2 as wedged. 2 was fluorine. Done. Okay. So did we catch how we did this, right? We assigned our priorities. We took our 2 possibilities, right? We kept 2 things the same and we swapped the other ones. Theoretically speaking, you could have swapped the 3 and the 4 also, right? But that's a little bit tricky, right? The ring kind of makes this one a little bit tricky there. We want to keep the ring kind of plainer just by convention's sake, although in reality it doesn't really matter too much, okay? So assign your priorities, draw your 2 different possibilities, and then assign R versus S. And then the most important part, draw a smiley face. Okay. Moving right along. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this guy here. Actually, let's skip over to the last one. Okay. Let's skip over to this last one over here. All right. So we got that chiral center there. Okay. Assign our priorities. Oxygen's going to be number 1. We've got that carbon in orange here. We've got this carbon in green. Let's do green. Okay. And then we've got a hydrogen that's on here also. Okay. So let's assign priority. That carbon in orange is bound twice to another carbon, bound once to a hydrogen. Cool. This carbon in green is bound twice to another carbon because of the double bond, bound once to that hydrogen. Row, right? Here now we got to move one out again. That carbon in green is bound to 2 hydrogens, but it's also bound back, right? Because of the double bond, it's bound. We count 1 bond back also. In the orange, we either pick up or down with the next where to go. That carbon there is bound to 3 hydrogens. And here's our difference, right? So now we can assign priority. And if you take a look in the notes, I believe this is the exact example that I did in the notes with respect to double bonds versus isopropyl groups there. Okay. Anyway, now we can assign 2 here. We can assign 3 here. And our hydrogen is number 4. Now we need S, right? We need S, so this needs to be counterclockwise. So draw our molecule. Right, we need this to be S. The way we're looking at the rotation right now, right, it is counterclockwise. So to maintain the perceived and the actual, to maintain the perceived versus actual, the 4 has got to be facing away from you. If you don't know what I'm talking about with perceived versus actual, go look at one of the previous recordings and it'll talk about what I mean with that. Okay, so to maintain the perceived and versus actual, push the 4 away from you. And so here we have our S orientation for that molecule. I'm going to quickly draw you guys the answer for the second one here in the middle. See if you guys can work through this on your own. Now looking at the way that we approach the other molecules, right? Assign your priorities, draw your options, right? Draw your options, and then pick which one gives you the correct answer, and then draw the molecule based off of your attempts, okay? Assign priority, draw your options, assign R versus S, and then draw that again. All right.